Hello and thank you for watching. My name is Rachel Barnett with Gentle Frog. I'm here to create videos for you to help you understand QuickBooks slightly better than you currently do. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please put them in the chat box. Thank you.
So I suggest that you consolidate information into one place. I don't mean that everything ever is going to be in one place. I think if that software or solution exists, that would be great and probably very expensive. But I do mean, again, with the sticky notes, as I look at my little sticky note stash, I actually have a whole pile of them over here. I don't want you to have a bunch of sticky notes or a bunch of scraps of paper, and then you have to go find and put them together later. I put a couple examples together for us. If you're driving your vehicle for mileage, and if your tax person's going to ask you at the end of the year, how many miles were business miles, I don't want you to say, it was about, and then pull a number from thin air. I want you to be able to say it was exactly this many miles. The business mileage is definitely not the entire mileage on your car, because at some point you're using the car for personal. So there's a pile of ways you can keep track of your business mileage. You can have a little notepad in the car. You can use an app. The app that I have heard people like is Mileage IQ. Because my business is all via Zoom, I don't drive for work, so I don't need a mileage app. I'm sure there are others beyond Mileage IQ. That's just kind of been the go-to that everyone recommends. In accounting land, bookkeeping friends and colleagues, they recommend Mileage IQ, which is why I recommend it to you. I recommend you have some sort of receipt app, something that you can take your electronic receipts that come via email and the paper receipts that you get that are currently living in your pocket and consolidate them. And so you can, if you want, and you don't have to, you can use something like Dext. Dext was called Receipt Bank, or you can use something like HubDoc, or there's a whole pile of other apps. These apps are standalone apps that will also integrate with many accounting software. What I like about the apps is that you can take a picture of the receipt, you can email the receipt, you can drag and drop the receipt, and then the app will kind of read the receipt and it'll say, oh, here's the date and here's who the money went to and here's the dollars spent, and it'll kind of organize it for you. So if you ever needed to find that receipt again, you could search by date if you magically knew the date, or you could search by dollar amount if you knew that, or you could say, oh, that was the receipt when I went to Best Buy and I bought the thing, and you could say, hey app, can you just show me all my Best Buy receipts and I'll just look through finding the one I want. I like that. I also like having an application of some sort, so that like you're not relying on the paper receipt. Paper receipts are great, and if you're the most organized person in the world, that's fantastic. The concern I have is that sometimes it's printed on that kind of weird, funny gas station paper. It fades. And I don't want your receipt, which is perfectly amazing, sitting in a filing drawer, to fade to the point that nobody can read it, because then there's no point in having had kept it. I like the idea of having some sort of organization software. If you have a bunch of information just kind of everywhere, one software that I like that you might consider is Evernote. If Evernote's not your jam, maybe OneNote's your jam. This is not so much like a accounting specific thing as it is, as small business owners, we have a lot of information we have to keep track of. So much of it has to live in our head. If we can get any of it organized and put into a single place that we can find it later, that's a huge help. So that's just my 2 cents. I recommend, if you can, to have a designated email account for your business. So I have an email account for work and I have an email account for personal. And so all of my work receipts go to my work email account. Home Depot is a good example. When you go there, you can email yourself a receipt. Not a lot of Home Depot expenses in the accounting business, but I do like going there for my plants. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that paper receipt. I'm probably going to remember to take a picture and upload it to HubDoc. But in case I don't, I get a copy of it emailed to myself so that I have it, and then I can just auto forward that over to HubDoc, my receipt platform. I like having a designated email account because it just makes it easier. It makes it easier to find stuff. It makes it easier just as you grow. Just easier. And then you can also put everything into a shoebox. I just gently say, please don't do it. It happens. I'm not going to give you a bad time if you're one of those people that it happens to. But it's certainly much more organized for you, for your bookkeeper, for your tax person. It's much more organized if your records are not just piled up in a shoebox. but if they are, no big deal. The logic behind all this is that if you need to find something, whether it's your mileage or your receipts or your notes to yourself or email correspondence with a client, I want you to have one place you can look. I don't want you to say, oh gosh, it might be here, and then spin your wheels trying to find it. So while these things seem kind of broad, these are things that come up during my training calls with clients where I'm like, hey, I need this thing. And they're like, oh, let me go search 15 different places. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I'm like, oh, like, if I could give them a tip, my tip would be have a place for the thing. And maybe you have lots of places for different things, but like you just know, like, here's the one place I go for my mileage or the one place I go for my receipts. So what I tried to do here is just expand on the places you can go or the ways you can keep track of stuff. So for mileage, if you want to keep a paper log, that's totally great. One of my tax preparer friends said, if you keep a paper log, you should also keep receipts of automobile maintenance. Auto maintenance has nothing to do with your mileage except for when you get your tires changed, or your oil changed, or any of that good stuff. The provider that's doing this is going to put on the receipt, here's the vehicle that came in, here's the date the vehicle came in, and here's the odometer of the vehicle. Basically, by having this, you'll have something to substantiate the mileage you put in your paper log. Other options are Mileage IQ, which is an app we've discussed, Trip Log, which is a different app. For receipts, we talked about Dext and HubDoc. Both of them will read the receipt and organize it. If you feel like that's too much, like you're not in a position to learn new software, you're not in a position to pay for software, no problem. Just organize your receipts by tossing them into a Drive folder or a Dropbox folder or a OneDrive folder, right? Keep it simple and meet yourself where you are. Don't worry about what I do. Don't worry about what someone else does. Just say, what's the one thing that I can do? So organization software, I just have more things, right? There's Evernote. There's OneNote, there's Google Keep. There's, of course, other stuff beyond those things, but these are just tips. When I say email account, I would love it if you'd make a new email account. I'd love it if your email account said something at company name, right? If you're not in a position to do that, if you really are the kind of person who wants one email account and that's just where it's at, that's totally fine. There is a trick that you can do in Gmail. So you can take your personal Gmail, or your business, doesn't matter. If your email account is a Gmail account, you can say, okay, we'll pretend that our Gmail account is awesome@gmail.com. If you would normally get messages to awesome@gmail.com, you can say awesome +receipts@gmail.com. That means that those receipts will still go to your main inbox. It'll still show up just like normal, just like every other record. The difference is you can then filter and ask Gmail to show you all of the records that came to the email address awesome +receipts@gmail.com. So Gmail just gives you the ability to put the plus sign at the end of your name or the end of your handle or whatever you want to call it. You can put plus sign and then put additional words after that at gmail.com, or if you use Google Apps for Business, which I do. So I'm Rachel@gentlefrog.com. I could do Rachel +receipts@gentlefrog.com. When I log in Gmail, I can then search for anything that went to Rachel +receipts. A quick side note about what makes this kind of fun is that if you're signing up for various things, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, you could say Rachel +LinkedIn or Rachel +Facebook at whatever. And then if your email address is ever sold and you find that you're starting to get some junk mail and you're like, what is this? I never signed up for it. You could look at the to and see who that message was sent to, and you would know which provider has sold your email address. There's nothing you can do about it, but it might be interesting. It might be something that you would want to know. So I tell you, here's a quick fun tip if you're bored and have a desire to do this thing. But mostly I want you to have a way to quickly find your receipts. What I like about doing the plus receipts, by the way, is that you can then set up a rule within your email to say anytime it comes to Rachel +receipts@gentlefrog.com, automatically take all of those emails and send them somewhere magical. So all my receipts are in one spot. So now you've got stuff organized and you didn't really have to do anything. So I kind of like that. I jumped ahead on my slide. Number 6, the thing I just described for you. So the logic is that you don't have to do anything and your expenses are in a single location. I really want you to be organized and to have stuff You're not going to need your receipts on a very regular basis, but if you ever do need your receipts, just knowing that you put a couple of things in place that just took you a tiny bit of time, knowing that if you ever need to find those receipts and that they're automatically organized, is just going to alleviate stress. And that's a big deal to me. The world is weird enough. We don't need to add to the stress of it.